It was a quiet Sunday morning in Briar Ridge, the kind of neighborhood where the lawns were manicured like museum pieces and the mailbox paint matched the shutters. My daughter Lily sat on the porch, brushing the golden fur of her service dog, Scout. She was only 10, but had already faced more than most grown-ups. Diagnosed with epilepsy at age 6, Lily relied on Scout to alert us before her seizures hit. He was more than a dog. He was her guardian, her constant, her best friend. I sipped my coffee and watched them. The way Scout's ears perked at every sound, the way Lily's laugh cut through the stillness like a breeze. For a moment, everything felt perfect, peaceful. I didn't know that within 24 hours, that peace would be shattered, that someone in this picture-perfect neighborhood would cross a line no one should ever dare to cross. Madeline Reese lived 2 houses down, in a colonial-style home with rose bushes trimmed so precisely they looked fake. She wore crisp pastel suits even on trash day, and walked like the sidewalk owed her something. As president of the Briar Ridge HOA for nearly a decade, she ruled with a clipboard in one hand and a violation notice in the other. Most people feared her, some out of respect, most out of exhaustion. She once fined a neighbor for hanging laundry too visibly and tried to have a swing set removed because the colors were off-brand for the neighborhood aesthetic. But her real obsession, pets, dogs in particular. She claimed they were disruptive, unsanitary, and against community harmony. And when Scout entered our lives, Madeline's wrath found a new target. The first time she saw Scout, she wrinkled her nose like she'd caught a bad smell. "Is that thing even allowed?" she'd asked, not waiting for an answer. I explained politely that Scout was a trained medical service animal, federally protected under the ADA. She wasn't impressed. "HOA has its own rules," she snapped. "Big dogs aren't permitted. Your daughter can use one of those smaller, more discreet ones, maybe a support cat." I tried to keep my cool, but her tone made it clear. She didn't see Scout as a helper, just a nuisance. Lily, sensing the tension, reached down to pet Scout's head. "He helps me stay safe," she whispered. Madeline rolled her eyes. "We'll see what the board thinks." From that day on, it felt like we were under a microscope. Every walk, every bark, every moment outside was documented, reported, and met with a passive-aggressive note on our doorstep. I knew then that Madeline wasn't just difficult. She was dangerous, and she had no idea who she was dealing with. It happened on a Thursday afternoon, one of those rare days when everything had gone right. Lily had a good morning at school, no seizures, and Scout had earned a new squeaky toy for his flawless alerts during the week. We left for her pediatric neurology appointment just after lunch, smiling, hopeful. But when we returned, something was off. Scout's leash wasn't by the door. His bowl was still full. At first I thought maybe he'd gotten into the backyard somehow, or maybe Lily's mum had picked him up for grooming without telling me. But no, the gate was locked. No one had touched his things. Then Lily called out, her voice high and panicked. "Dad, Scout's gone." I searched the yard, then the garage, calling his name with growing dread. Scout wouldn't run away. He never left Lily's side unless told to. I checked our security camera and froze. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Madeline Reese, pink sweater, wide-brimmed sun hat. She walked right up to our gate, opened it like she owned it, called Scout by name, she must have heard us say it before, and offered him something from her purse. He hesitated, but Scout was loyal, not suspicious. He trotted toward her. She clipped a leash on his collar, opened her car door, and drove away like it was the most natural thing in the world. Lily stood beside me, tears already running down her face. Her hands shook. "Why would she take him?" she asked, voice cracking. "He's my dog." I didn't have an answer. I knelt down and hugged her tightly. We're going to get him back. I promise. But inside, I was burning. Madeline hadn't just crossed a line. She had shattered it. She stole a medical service animal, a child's lifeline, and thought she could get away with it. I looked at Lily's pale, terrified face and made a silent vow. She took the wrong dog from the wrong family. She had no idea that the man she just stole from spent the last decade rescuing animals and taking down people exactly like her. I've worked in animal control for 12 years, and before that I trained military working dogs overseas. I've seen cruelty, deception, and desperation in 100 forms, but this was personal. Scout wasn't just another case. He was family. And now my daughter couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, flinched at every sound, because someone in our neighborhood thought she could play God with other people's lives. I knew I couldn't abuse my position, but I also knew the law better than Madeline ever would. So I got to work. First, I called Nate, a friend over at the county sheriff's department. I explained the situation, carefully avoiding anything emotional. He knew me well enough to catch the rage in my voice. "Send me the footage," he said. "We'll get a warrant if we have to." But I didn't want to wait for the courts. I needed to act before Scout was moved, or worse. I drove the neighborhood at dusk, looking for Madeline's car. It wasn't at her house, not in her usual spot behind the HOA office either. I stopped by a gas station 2 blocks over that had a high-angle surveillance camera. The owner, a retired vet who recognized me, let me review the footage. There she was, Madeline, same hat, pulling into a private boarding facility 20 minutes outside of town. By morning I was there, dressed in jeans and a jacket, no badge in sight. I asked to see their kennels, pretending I was scouting a place for a rescue retriever. When we reached the back row, I froze. There he was, Scout. Hunched, tail down, confused but alert. I kept my voice steady as I asked, "What's this one's name?" The woman checking the list squinted. "Says his name is Baxter. Brought in yesterday afternoon by a Ms. Reese. Paid cash for a week." I pulled out my phone and opened the Chip ID registry app. Scout's chip pinged instantly. I turned to the woman, my voice firm. "That's my daughter's service animal. You've been duped." And just like that, the game changed. Scout was coming home, and Madeline Reese was running out of time. I waited by the front desk of the boarding facility, one hand resting gently on Scout's back, the other holding the signed paperwork confirming his release. My heart was pounding, not from nerves, but from the slow rising satisfaction of a man about to deliver justice. Scout kept glancing at me, tail wagging in half circles, confused, but clearly comforted. Then the door chimed. Madeline Reese walked in like she owned the place. Sunglasses too big for her narrow face, floral scarf tied dramatically under her chin. She froze the second she saw us. Her voice rose, shrill and indignant. "What is he doing here? That's my dog. I rescued him." I turned slowly, locking eyes with her. "You mean my daughter's federally registered service animal? The one you lured into your car and dropped off here under a fake name?" She scoffed, glancing at the young woman behind the desk. "This is harassment. I have rights." "Not the kind that let you commit a felony," I replied calmly. "Scout is microchipped. He's in the National Service Animal Registry. You can't fake that, and I've already sent a copy of the footage to the sheriff's department." Madeline's lips curled into a sneer, but her hands were trembling. "You don't scare me." "I don't need to," I said, pulling my wallet slowly and flashing my animal control ID. "The law does." For a moment she just stood there, staring at the badge, her face flickering between rage and disbelief. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I thought he was just too big for the HOA. I didn't think—" "You didn't think my daughter's life mattered. That's the problem," As she opened her mouth to argue, the door opened again. Deputy Ramos stepped in, nodding at me. "We got your call. Ms. Reese, we need you to come with us." "What? Wait. No, this is insane. You're being charged with theft, falsifying animal ownership records, and violating the Americans with Disabilities Act." As the handcuffs clicked behind her back, she finally looked scared. Not because she was sorry, but because she'd lost. Scout let out a soft bark, standing tall beside me. And in that moment, I knew we were going to be okay. Madeline Reese had stolen from the wrong family, and now she was going to pay for it. Madeline didn't go quietly. Even in cuffs, she shouted about how unfair it was, how the HOA bylaws were being disrespected, how Scout was a safety hazard, and probably not even a real service animal. But the deputy shut her down fast, reminding her that service dogs are protected by federal law and that her actions had real consequences. As the patrol car pulled away, I stood beside Scout in the parking lot, feeling the storm inside me begin to settle. I called Lily to tell her Scout was safe, and her small sob of relief broke me all over again. She hadn't slept the night before, terrified that her best friend was gone for good. Now we could finally come home whole. The story didn't stay quiet for long. Within hours, word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. People who had tiptoed around Madeline for years suddenly found their voices. Mrs. Klein from the corner house shared how Madeline threatened to fine her for putting a "Welcome Home" banner on her porch. The Johnson twins' mother revealed that her autistic son had been scared of walking past Madeline's house because she'd screamed at him for making weird noises. One by one, stories poured out. Quiet moments of cruelty, intimidation, and cold-hearted pettiness that had gone unchecked. At the next HOA meeting, the room was packed. For the first time, Madeline wasn't at the head of the table. The vice president, a mild-mannered accountant named Mr. Lang, stood up and motioned for silence. "As of today, Madeline Reese has been suspended indefinitely pending legal proceedings," he said. The room broke into quiet applause, but he wasn't finished. "And we're launching a full review of all past enforcement actions, particularly those involving children, pets, and accessibility concerns." That's when Mrs. Vega stood and said, "Why don't we make space for families like the Moores instead of punishing them?" The whole room nodded. In a matter of days, a petition began circulating to elect a new board and to update HOA policies, especially around service animals and disability accommodations. For the first time since we'd moved in, our neighborhood felt like a community. Not perfect, not polished, but human. And that made all the difference. Scout was home, Madeline was gone, and Briar Ridge was finally waking up. When we pulled into the driveway that evening, Scout let out a soft whine and wagged his tail like he knew he was home. Lily was waiting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm air. The moment she saw him, she burst into tears. Scout bounded up the steps, gently nudging her hands, until she dropped the blanket and threw her arms around his neck. "You came back," she whispered into his fur. He licked her cheek, tail wagging furiously, and for the first time in 2 days, her face lit up. That night, Lily had a seizure. It was sudden, no warning, the kind that used to send her into the hospital. But Scout was with her. He barked twice, just like he was trained to, and ran to my room. We got to her in time. I sat beside her afterward, holding her hand, heart pounding. If Scout hadn't been there, I didn't want to finish that thought. Madeline had almost taken more than just a dog. She'd nearly taken my daughter's safety, her peace. In the weeks that followed, the HOA changed fast. A new president was elected, Marcus Dean, a veteran with a wheelchair-bound teenage son. One of his first promises was to rewrite the pet and accessibility policies completely. No family should have to fight for the right to feel safe, he said. The neighbors rallied around us in ways we never expected. One family donated materials to build a shaded bench for Scout beside Lily's favorite tree. Another offered to plant flowers Scout wouldn't be allergic to. What started as a small act of cruelty had sparked something bigger, a shift in how people saw each other. We weren't just that house with the sick kid anymore. We were part of something. We belonged. About a month after everything settled, a letter arrived. No return address, but I recognized the shaky handwriting immediately. It was from Madeline. I stared at the envelope for a long time before showing it to Sarah. We debated what to do. Part of me wanted to burn it unread. But Lily saw it on the table and asked, "Is it from her?" When I nodded, she said quietly, "I want to read it." She opened it slowly, Scout resting his head in her lap like he knew this was important. The letter wasn't long. Madeline didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't defend herself. She simply said she was sorry. Said she didn't understand what Scout meant to Lily until she was forced to work with therapy animals in the prison rehab unit. That holding a leash for a woman who couldn't speak had made her realize how much she'd taken for granted. "I see now that I didn't just steal a dog," she wrote. "I stole a lifeline. I'm sorry." Lily was quiet for a long time after finishing it. Finally, she folded the letter and looked up. "I believe she's sorry," she said. "But that doesn't fix what she did. Scout's still scared at night. I still get nervous when I don't see him." I nodded, waiting. "But maybe," she added, "if she really means it, she won't hurt anyone else. And that's something." She gave Scout a little pat. "Come on, boy. Let's go play."